all three of us are playing God of War Ragnarok. And Dustin, let's go to you first.
Yeah, I feel like as I play this game more and more, I'm very impressed by the amount of locations and set piece moments in this game. I was trying to think of an analogy to describe for the show. I only have one that's not very good, but I'll say it anyway. It kind of reminds me of when you watch the first Matrix movie, and it's kind of contained. You have your cast of characters. They talk about a lot of locations like Zion, but you never go there. You don't see that. You hear about people, but you maybe don't see them. And then in Matrix Reloaded, they kind of like fully expand on the world, and you get to see everything that the world that you heard about before. And that's how I feel about God of War, in that the first one is a very, not that you don't go and do a lot of different things, but you hit these different locations and different realms. And when the game's done, it kind of opens up this question about what's next. Ragnarok is everything. It's all the realms. It's all the different places, all these different characters. And I really am so far really respecting the way that they did it. It doesn't feel like too much all at once. In fact, I feel like it really has been doing a really good job layering not only its story and characters, but also its different mechanics. In fact, I'm surprised that it continues to layer on more mechanics as you keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think that the one thing that I'm going to feel by the time I'm done with this game is that it's too long. Just because I'm playing it like pretty consistently for many hours at a time. I'm like, man, I've been playing this game a lot. I'm not bored or anything. And I'm just thinking about some of my friends who are playing this at a slower pace. And I'm like, man, it is going to take you a long time to finish this game. And I'm doing a decent amount of the side quests as well. And I have to say, the side quests in this game are pretty good. Every time that they come up, I think I kind of just want to see what's next in the story. But I tell myself to just do it. And then I'm like, man, I'm really glad I did that. There was like a really cool character moment. You learn something about a character. You see a cool set piece, something like that. So the side quests even in this game, very, very good. But I will say, and I know that there's a write-in about this, but the Kratos squeeze is really bothering me. Where constantly you're having to crawl under something. You're having to shimmy through a tight section or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's so obvious that this was a PS4 game and that it's being held back by the spinning hard drive of the PS4. Sometimes it almost feels comical. I'm like, why is there something I need to crawl under here? It doesn't make any sense. Because I know that there's been, and I think we discussed this on either Sacred Symbols Plus or something, maybe it was last week, that it makes sense that sometimes that developers would use that as like a choke point where it's like, so players know they're going the right way. That was a big discussion on Twitter for some people, as developers saying like, oh, we actually use that intentionally, not for loading. I kind of feel like I'm sure it is true in some situations, but in this game, man, there are certain times I'm like, it feels unnecessary on the PlayStation 5. And it's such a beautiful game. I'm not saying it's like gross old PS4 feeling game, but it definitely has some of that remnants in there for sure.
I think my issues with it are the same issues that I had before with 2018, although improved somewhat. I think the menus are still kind of shit. I think the map is fucking unreadable. Like I have not been able to use the map to any effectiveness. It's all style, no function. And, it's pretty to look at, but I've never wasted my time in it. I do think the RPG mechanics are a little better implemented this time around. I do think there's a little bit more reason to kind of swap to different armor sets, and there's a lot more reasons to kind of like customize your different runic attacks. There's a lot more depth to the combat than you would initially think just by looking at gameplay of it, because there's stun, there's momentum, there's base damage, and then there's like different things there's different skills that you can equip to certain weapons, and there's runic attacks and heavy runic attacks, and it's really, really satisfying to chain these things together in a way that there's certain times in this game where I feel like I'm almost playing Devil May Cry because of how stylish you can get with the combat when you really, really want to.
Yeah, I've played 7 or 8 hours, and I think the game is beautiful. I think the game is fun to play in its combat. I think the voice acting is really good, and some of the characterizations are really good. There's just a lot of good execution.
Mhm.
I just personally think it's kind of boring, and I've been saying that since I first started playing it. I've been really deeply thinking about what it is about me in God of War. And longtime listeners of me will know that I've had beef with God of War going all the way back to the beginning. I never liked God of War. God of War 2018 being a game that I really actually liked a lot, which is why it's so weird that people think I don't like it. It's like, if you've been following me for long enough, you know that it was a big surprise that I was going to dig it, because I really hated Kratos in the original God of War games. I just could not stand him. I beat God of War 1, I beat God of War 2. I even went back and got the trophies on those games. I think I platinumed the second game. God of War 3, I played a little while and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I played the PSP games at events, but I never played them through. But there's something about those games that were honest and earnest that I feel like these games miss. And it maybe is an example of missing what you don't have anymore. But I'm playing God of War Ragnarok and I'm having a great time fucking throwing the axe, bringing up my shield, bashing the shit out of people. It's brutal. It's fun. It's fast. I got my son fucking shooting arrows and spamming dudes, and it's really great. And then I have to solve a puzzle. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I'm the God of War. I am the God of War. It just doesn't, something about this doesn't, it's not like Nathan Drake. There's just something peculiar about this. There's a part in the beginning of the game where I'm literally feel like I'm on Splash Mountain. I actually started taking screenshots of it because I thought it was so funny. Like, I'm not playing Resident Evil or something. I really don't want to be doing these complicated puzzles, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember shit like this in the original God of War games to any extent like this. It's hard for me. Like, I'm ready for the sheer amount of abuse that's no doubt going to be hurled at me, as usual, when I talk about a AAA game that I'm not crazy about. But I think it's a good game. Like, I think it's perfectly good, if not great. And I think its combat is A tier. I don't think it's S tier combat. I think that would be something more like Returnal for me in the first or second party sphere if we're talking about PS5 games.
Yeah.
But I think that this just feels like 40 more hours of God of War 2018. So I think the idea that our expectation that I was going to like this more than I liked the God of War 2018, I just think was unreasonable. I feel like there are some issues. Like, it is a PS4 game. I am a little surprised about how much people like it. When I play it, I feel like my gut instinct of like an 85 or so is accurate. If you told me, if I actually had played it before it came out and you asked me what it was going to get, I'd be like, it's going to get about an 85. So I'm comfortable with that prediction, even though it was 8 points off or whatever. I don't yet see it. And I am kind of confounded by, I guess, a core PlayStation fan base. Not confounded because it's like to each his own, but we're busting Horizon's balls for storytelling and we're busting The Last of Us's balls for storytelling. And you guys like this? Horizon's a far superior game, in my opinion, to God of War.
Oh, wow.
Both of them.
Yeah.
You know, and I still think Forbidden West is the most AAA PlayStation game yet released.
I mean, you said it yourself. It's very subjective. Like, I think that Horizon Forbidden West is infinitely more boring than God of War. So it's just like it's one of those things where it's like we can list out a bunch of reasons why on each side, but ultimately they're just very different games for very different tastes.
The only reason I bring that up as a direct comparison is not only the first party connection, not only the calendar year connection and the platform connection. I bring it up because a lot of people bust that game's balls as being insufficient or a PS4 game or not much the same. And I'm like, what? I mean, if that's what you're going to leverage at this, it's like, what are you talking about?
The like seeing him grow and seeing him be like kind of like a bastard in the beginning of 2018, and in this game he's so different. Not even necessarily like undeservedly different, but he's more restrained. He's like, you know, he's like more peaceful, and it's like you could tell that it's this old guy from the old games kind of like trying to just be a normal person to like. And there's something really fascinating about that to me. It ain't. I think it's one of the better games this year, obviously, but it ain't. 10 out of 10 is insane. Like, that was one of the things that when I was playing it, I was like, this is great, but like, this ain't Elden Ring.
it's hard to say I like the things you think I'm going to like about it a lot. And there's a lot of questionable things, and you almost want to talk about the questionable things because, of course, the combat's great. Of course, all these other things.
Goes without saying. Yeah.
These games are I gotta say, man, they're kind of melding into each other.
Really?
These first party games, like they just are. I was actually imagining how awesome this game is if you have never played a PlayStation game before. That, I think, is a totally different situation. If you're just coming in hot with God of War Ragnarok, and you're just coming from Switch or whatever, you don't play games or you're casual, that I think would probably be like a 10 out of 10. But I think if you've played all of this stuff over the years, you're just like, now they're all blurring together with each other.